Hey friends, let's paint this super cute Christmas truck add-on back in our shop at Aspen and Lark. So you're gonna need the Christmas truck add-on blank that's found at aspenandlark.com, acrylic paints or pens like Posca pens, paintbrushes, and glue. All right, let's get started on this amazing project. It's so much fun. I really love making this project. And if you're new here or you've been here a while, be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button, and like it. We're brand new. All right, my apologies. I thought I was recording before I started this, but I wasn't. So I am using a white chalk paint to base coat my MDF. Now, before I get started, I just want to make a couple of tip suggestions for you. If you're going to paint lighter colors, sometimes a base coat of white is better. And I find that chalk paint actually gives me a better coverage than acrylic paint. MDF kind of soaks up paints pretty quickly. So I find that the chalk paint actually gives me a really nice even coverage and darker coverage without having to do another coat, but also it dries really quickly. So just be aware of that. And you could decide you might want to spray paint with a clear matte finish spray paint first before painting. That would also avoid some of the paint getting soaked in. Now, what you see me doing here is using a toothpick to go through the grooves. You may or may not want to do this. That's totally up to you. I wanted more definition showing when I'm painting. So I just use a toothpick as I'm moving along before it dries to kind of pull it out of some of those areas. And you'll see me do that throughout this entire project. So let's base paint this with white. All right, now everything is dry to touch and I'm gonna go in and start painting in my colors. Now I went ahead and used a color palette that is more of a kind of more pinky red situation. And the original lighter pink that I have in my palette here, I ended up not liking and went with something a little bit lighter. I will try to list the colors I used down below, but for the most part, this is just more of a pinky red and a light pink color palette, as well as a light green color palette when it comes to the trees. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix a little white into that pinky red color that I have to lighten it, because when I want to add shading, I want to paint with a little bit lighter color first, and then I come in with a darker color. So that's what I'm going to do here. And you're going to see me switch out my pinks. And just know something before you get started. I have arthritis in my hands. I am not super steady. It's okay if you go over the lines and have to touch up. I go back and forth doing that quite a bit. So don't worry about it. Have fun with it. All right, so here in a minute, you're gonna see me using my heat tool just to kind of dry it. So you can use a heat tool or blow dryer or something like that if you need to work quickly. Getting it dry first helps. Now I will say this, you're gonna have to paint multiple layers of your colors, which is what I've done here. I probably did close to either 2 or 3 layers depending on the color, just to get a nice even coverage. And I try to make sure everything is dry before I come back in and do any of my shading. Now I'm adding more of a light peachy color for the face. I ended up mixing this with some orange and white to get this color. So I don't have an exact color for you, but I just found it was really a good color. But then I thought, okay, this is where my pinks that I'm using in the hat end up being a little too close to skin color. So that's when I decided to change it. All right, so when I went to do shading, it didn't record the first part of it, but just know that what I decided to do is come in with a wet angled brush. I'm using a small one, and I will pick up some of a darker red and then just blend it. Now, what I'm doing is wetting the brush, getting it a little bit wet, adding some of that red paint to the tip of the acrylic paint pen or brush, and then just kind of feathering it down. This is something you have to play with and get used to and practice with, and I promise you'll get better and better at it. But I do find that I just have to play with some colors sometimes to get it just where I like it. But hey, no worries if you mess up, just paint over it and start over again. All right, so when it comes time to shade the tree, I'm just using a dark green and following that same process, wetting my brush, getting a little bit of green on the tip of the angled part of the brush, coming in and adding it and then feathering it. If you find you get too much on there, wipe your brush off and try to dry brush some feathering. And if that doesn't work, just add a little bit of water and feather out that way. I promise you that if you let it dry down, it ends up looking better than when it's wet. So just give it a chance and see how it looks to you. All right, so to add some shading to the beard, I'm gonna make a very light gray. Then you're gonna see I'm gonna use my finger to try to smudge it and get paint from my finger all over the beard. Mistakes are real, it's okay. And then I decided to go a little bit lighter. So I ended up having to do paint over it and then come back in and add the wash to it to give it a little bit of shading. All right, so this is where I'm gonna come in with my paint pen. This is a Posca acrylic paint pen. This is a fatter tip. I would recommend the finer tip if I were you. It just will get in there a little bit easier on those smaller spots. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the eyebrows, and then I'm gonna do dots on the Christmas tree where some of the ornament details are. And then I'll come in with a black one and do the eyes. All right, now to do the license plate and the back of the truck, I'm gonna go ahead and paint the base colors first. I did do the darker red on this one, and then I was like, oh wait, we need to do this lighter. And this is where I first ended up mixing a lighter version of it. So I'm gonna do a few coats of that, and then I'll come in and shade it just like I did the Santa Claus. I ended up doing a red as my shading, and I just, again, wet the brush, get the edges wet, everything wet, kind of wipe a little out, and then pick up a little bit of red on the angled part and start feathering it down. All right, so for the truck back, my truck is a dark gray. So I am using black and white to make that darker, lighter color of the gray to do the base, and then we'll come in with a black as my shading color. All right, so when it comes time to put the letters down, I did choose to use the 3M adhesive on the back of my lettering, and I highly recommend that upgrade. It's just so much nicer than having to glue and place things down and get messy. I do use a weeding tool sometimes to help get some of that off. That does help. But once I pull off all of the adhesive, I'll go ahead and use the score lines on the backs of the truck and the license plate to place them in place, and then go ahead and paint them. Now, I decided to use the light pink that I have used in the Santa Claus portion to paint the back of the truck, which is the North Pole. And then for the Santa license plate, I used a white Posca pen to paint that one. I did do a couple of coats of the pink on the North Pole and only one on the Santa. It did pretty okay with one. You could do two once it dried. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and place the Velcro to the back of the truck. Sorry, I'm shaking my table there. So I already have it on the back of my truck, but what you're going to get is 3 pieces of Velcro that have the front and back part of the Velcro together. And so what you want to do is determine which side of the Velcro you need to use on your accessories. And what I do is I like to stick them down to where they are on my truck and then apply a little super glue. In this case, I think I use CA thick or thin adhesive or whatever. Super glue is perfectly fine to the back of the Velcro. And then I placed my items down on top, and that just assures that everything's in the right place. So you may have used a different front or back to your Velcro on your truck. So just make sure you're putting the right ones down, that they stick Place the super glue onto the Velcro, and then place your items in place and then leave them. Let them sit. I like to let mine sit overnight if I can. Get a good adhesive to it, and then you should be able to pull them off and on pretty easily. All right, and then you can easily place everything inside the truck as well. I recommend adding a little bit of spray sealer to your pieces. They could scratch over time going in and out of the back of the truck. That's just to keep it nice and tight. So just be careful. If you seal it, that should protect it. All right, and here it is all complete. This is so much fun. I love our seasonal truck. You can change it out with different add-ons, and we're adding new ones all the time that you could create fun, interchangeable seasonal decor for your home. These DIY kits are a lot of fun. I love to paint. If you love to color, you'll love to paint like this too. Have fun. Have a little party with your friends. Everybody at the same one, get together, have some fun, and make your own little signs. Anyway, you can purchase the DIY blank for both the truck and the Christmas add-on in our shop at aspenandlark.com. We have a few other ones, fall, Halloween, our home one as well, and I will come up with a lot more, I promise. All right, thank you so much. We are a brand new channel here on YouTube. We had just started this business. We would love it if you would like, subscribe, all that good stuff to here on YouTube and help us get found. It means so much to us. All right, I'll see you in a new video.